What's up guys, Rogue9 here, and I'm back exploring the least loved weapons in Battlefield 1 in the hope of unearthing another hidden gem. And today I'll be taking a closer look at the Scout class rifles, specifically the least used variant of them all. Let's do it! As always, this video will be roughly divided into 3 parts. First, identify the least used scout rifle. Second, check out the gun's stats. And finally, field testing the gun for myself in order to find out whether or not it deserves more love from the Battlefield 1 community. Now, if we look at the time spent with each of the individual variants for the scout rifles, we actually see something that is quite unique that we don't see with any of the other weapon types in the game. Normally, with any other type of main weapon, we always see a specific variant of a gun, or at the very least a specific model that is head and shoulders above all the others in terms of usage time. But when it comes to the scout rifles, okay, there's 3 clear favorites at the top there, but all in all, the usage time seems to be split out relatively evenly among the different gun variants. On the face of it, this gives the impression that the scout rifles are pretty well balanced. So let's first take a quick look at those 3 models that are certainly favored at the moment. All of the following usage stats will be as at the 28th of February 2017 and may of course change in future. Nevertheless, first we have the short magazine Lee Enfield Mark III Marksman variant with 15.7% usage time. Then we have the Martini-Henry Infantry, which has seen a slight surge in use after its recent buff and currently stands at 12.7% usage time. And then we have the Russian 1895 Sniper variant with 11.9% usage time. Moving on to the least loved scout rifles, in 3rd place from the bottom we have the Covere M95 Infantry variant with 1.6% usage time. Second to last we have the M1903 Experimental with 0.6% usage time. And last but hopefully not least, it's the Russian 1895 Trench variant with 0.5% usage time. So there we have it. Our subject for today's video is the Russian 1895 and specifically the Trench variant. Not the Infantry variant, not the Sniper variant, the Trench variant and nothing else. Now of course the Russian 1895 Trench is an iron sights rifle rather than one of the scoped versions. So rather than comparing apples with pears here, I'm going to compare this rifle to the other iron sights rifles in the game. I will also be excluding the M1903 Experimental from this comparison, because I think as the only semi-automatic scout rifle, this gun really belongs in a category all on its own, and including it in this discussion would be kind of like comparing pears to an orange, and as any fruit connoisseur will know, that just won't do. Now at first glance, the damage output of the Russian Trench variant seems quite appalling. Its maximum damage of 79 points is somewhat less than the other iron sights rifles, but it's the minimum damage of only 40 points, which makes it look really weak. But keep in mind here that all the other rifles apart from the M95 work on the sweet spot principle. That means that up close they will do 80 or 90 points of damage, and it's only at further ranges where they will start doing more damage up to their maximum before dropping off again. So for all of these rifles you will need 2 shots up close, then 1 shot during the sweet spot zone, and then again 2 shots further away. The Covere M95 and the Russian 1895 Trench variant are different though. They do their maximum damage up close and then they start going down until they hit their minimum. Here's a comparison of the damage output for those 2 weapons at various distances, and the magic distance that's important here is 47 meters, because closer than that and the Russian Trench variant can kill in 2 shots, and after that it will need 3. The Covere M95 on the other hand has a fairly consistent damage output and will always need 2 shots to kill. And of course it is worth mentioning here that these stats are for shots to the upper body. If you can consistently land headshots, most of the scout rifles will kill outright. And by most of them, I really mean all of them except for the Russian 1895 trench. If you're at a distance of 42 meters or more, a headshot will no longer kill with this gun. Okay, I think I can stop now because I've made my point. The Russian 1895 trench has a relatively low damage capability and is limited to fairly close ranges if you want to kill in 2 shots. But damage per shot is only half of the equation, and something that is also very important is the rate of fire. As you can see here, the rate of fire of our gun is virtually double that of most of the other rifles. What this means is that the time to kill up to a distance of 47 meters is only about half a second. And despite the lower damage per shot, this is about half of that of all of the other scout rifles, with the exception of the Martini-Henry, which can one-shot kill from a distance of 30 meters and onwards, and the SMLE Mark III, which can one-shot kill from a distance of 40 meters and onwards. So I think even without looking at any of the other stats, we have already identified the use case for the 1895 trench variant, and that is to get right up close to your enemy, because here the high fire rate actually makes it one of the best scout rifles in terms of time to kill. The magazine size of 5 bullets is fairly standard for the class, and the muzzle velocity of 580 meters per second is relatively low, as you would expect for a gun specialized on close quarters combat. When it comes to reload time, the Russian 1895 trench variant is surprisingly slow, and that's kind of the opposite of what you would want from a gun you're taking into close quarters combat. When it comes to recoil, the scout weapons are quite consistent, and for most of them it really doesn't matter, since by the time you've cycled the weapon and reloaded another bullet, you've also overcome the recoil. The spread when aiming down sights is the same for all of the scout weapons. It's only when we look at hip firing spread that the Russian 1895 trench variant has a significant advantage, at least when compared to the other iron sight scout rifles. So let's summarize. I think I can now safely say that the Russian 1895 trench variant is in fact highly specialized in close quarters combat. I don't know why people keep saying I'm long-winded. Look, it only took me 6 minutes to confirm that a gun called the Russian 1895 trench is in fact a close quarters specialist. It has an excellent time to kill of about half a second up to a distance of 47 meters, and very good hipfire spread, at least when compared to the other iron sight sniper rifles. These strengths are balanced out by a low muzzle velocity, a slow reload time, the lack of a one-shot kill sweet spot zone, and the inability to kill an opponent with one headshot above 41 meters distance. 2 pros and 4 cons. Well, that doesn't look all too great, but there is only one way of making sure if all of my stat analysis makes any sense at all, and that is to field test the gun for myself. Now, when I started out with this rifle, I didn't have the best time of it. I played it just like I would any other of the infantry rifle variants or even the carbine variants, standing off from the action a bit, picking my shots, and waiting about a second between each shot. But to get the most out of this rifle, you really have to spam your fire. If your first shot was good and the target hasn't moved, just have the confidence to fire straight away again without confirming that the target is still in your sight picture. Rate of fire is this gun's biggest strength, and you really need to take advantage of it if you want to do well. And secondly, due to the really low muzzle velocity and low damage output at further distances, you really need to get up close and personal with this gun. Be prepared, you're gonna die more often than a sniper sitting up on the hill at 200 meters distance, and at least for a while you're definitely not going to get as many kills as you might with another class like the support, the medic, and certainly the assault class. And while almost all of the scout weapons allow players to have kind of a solo playstyle, the fact that this gun forces you so close to the action means that you need support from your squad mates and teammates if you want to stay alive. This gun, despite specializing in close quarters combat, is not a Rambo gun. It will not allow you to run in on your own and clear out an enemy point. But having said that, none of the scout rifles really allow you to do that. So if you like to play an ultra-aggressive scout and you have a good squad that not only supports you when you push up, but also provides you with plenty of ammo to constantly replenish your spotting flares, you can play a really valuable role on your team. In fact, I would go as far as to say that if you adapt your gameplay to fit the rifle's strengths, this rifle may well be the very best option available to the Scout class for this very specific role. And even though I said earlier I wasn't going to compare it with the M1903 Experimental, I feel now that I maybe should say a few words on the topic, specifically since the M1903 Experimental also fits this close quarters support scout role. The M1903 Experimental is of course equipped with the Pedersen device, which converts the standard bolt-action 1903 rifle into a semi-automatic rifle that fires 30 caliber pistol rounds. This gives it a much higher rate of fire and larger magazine, but lowers the damage per shot significantly. These characteristics make the M1903 Experimental also a very close-range focused rifle, but if I was going to pick one of them that is better, I would still go with the Russian 1895 Trench. The extremely low damage per shot of the M1903 Experimental means that you will need 5, 6, 7 or even 8 shots to kill. So between the distance of 23 meters and 48 meters, the time to kill is significantly better with the 1895. Any closer or any further away than that range, and the two guns are virtually equivalent when it comes to time to kill. The 1895 will require more practice, but once you get good with it, it is unbeatable in this close range role. Would I go as far as to call it a hidden gem? Maybe not quite. Maybe let's call it, I don't know, a hidden semi-precious stone, something like an amethyst. Its specialization on close quarters combat makes it a great, if not even the best choice for game modes such as Team Deathmatch, War Pigeons or Domination. Keep in mind though that other classes will still have an advantage over you. Once you get to game types that feature more open maps, and even if you want to play a fairly aggressive role, I would say that the infantry or carbine variants of the Scout rifles just offer you a more diverse skill set and greater capabilities should you ever need to fight beyond 47 meters. So long story short, does this gun deserve more love? Yes, I do think it does. In the right game type or on the right map with the right kind of playstyle, this little unloved rifle will serve you well and your team will thank you for pushing up with them and using your spotting flares effectively on the front line rather than camping somewhere in a building right at the back. And that's it for the Russian 1895 Trench variant. I've already done a few videos of this type, so why not check them out by clicking on the playlist link on screen now. And with that guys, as always, I hope you enjoyed the video and I will see you in the next episode.